The Clockmaker's Burden. Part 1, The City of Ticking Hearts. In the valley of Ethelgard was Oakhaven, a city famous everywhere not for its army, but for its clocks. The streets were filled with the ticking of 1,000 clocks all at once. It sounded like a steady heartbeat that gave life to the town. In the middle of this amazing clock city was the shop of Master Corin Thorn. His clocks were famous. People said they kept time so perfectly that the sun seemed to follow their sounds. Master Thorn had only one student, a smart but impatient young man named Elias. Elias easily understood how gears and springs worked, but he really wanted to prove he was great and step out of his famous master's shadow. Part 2, The Big Clock Order. The city was getting ready for the Grand Jubilee, a big party held every 50 years. To celebrate, the mayor asked Master Thorn to build the Jubilee clock. It would be a tall, beautiful clock for the center of the town square. Because his eyes were getting weak, Master Thorn made a choice that made his student very happy. Elias, the old man said nicely, "I will design the outside, but I am trusting you with the heart of the clock, the main center gear. It must be made from this star metal. The whole clock depends on it being completely perfect." Elias took the job with great excitement. He spent weeks cutting and polishing the rare, shiny star metal. He worked too hard because he was very proud and very tired. Part 3, The Crack. 3 nights before the party, Elias was completely exhausted. While he was using a tool to fix a tiny rough spot on the edge of the gear, his tired hand slipped. A loud, awful crack sound filled the quiet room. Elias stopped moving. Right at the bottom of a main gear tooth was a very thin crack. To a clockmaker, it was like a huge broken hole. Under the heavy weight of the tall clock, the star metal would surely break in the end. He felt a lot of fear. There was no more star metal left. If he told the truth about this mistake, he would ruin the clock, shame Master Thorn, and end his own job forever. He looked at a block of normal steel on his table. If he cut it perfectly and washed it with special chemicals, it would look just like the rare metal. Nobody would know. It will work for a few years, Elias told himself, his heart beating fast. I can sneak in when checking the clock later and change it before it ever breaks. Because he was scared, Elias hid the broken star metal under his floor. He quickly copied the gear using normal steel and painted it to look like the rare metal. When Master Thorn looked at the finished gear, he smiled happily. "Perfect work, my boy," the master smiled. Elias smiled back, but the nice words made him feel sick inside. Part 4, The Echo of a Lie. The Jubilee clock was pulled up into the tall stone tower. Thousands of people came to Oakhaven for the big party. But for Elias, the world felt like a bad dream. His lie felt like a heavy weight sitting on his chest, making it hard to breathe. The ticking clocks of Oakhaven no longer sounded like a nice heartbeat. They sounded like time running out. Tick-tock. Lie. Tick-tock. Lie. He could not sleep. Every time someone told him he did a good job, he felt cold and scared. He learned the true, bad nature of lying. A lie is like an unpaid debt, and the problem grows bigger every second you do not fix it. Part 5, The Breaking. The day of the Grand Jubilee came. At exactly 1 minute before noon, the crowded town square became very quiet and respectful. The inside parts of the clock started moving with a deep, loud sound. The giant gears began to turn. Clang. The first sound of noon rang out, clear and happy. The people cheered. Clang. The second sound. Master Thorn wiped a happy tear from his eye. But Elias was listening to the small sounds under the big bells. To everyone else, the clock sounded perfect. To Elias's trained ears, something was very wrong. Clang. 9. A quiet, terrible sound of bending metal reached Elias's ears. The normal steel gear was breaking much faster than he thought because of the heavy weights. Clang. 10. The bending sound turned into a loud, painful scrape. Master Thorn looked confused. Clang. 11. Crack. A terrible sound of breaking metal came from the tower. The giant minute hand shook hard and fell backward with an awful squeak. Inside the tower, falling and breaking gears destroyed the clock from the inside. The 12th sound never came. The Jubilee clock was dead. Part 6, The Weight of Truth. The crowd talked in shock and sadness. Master Thorn stood completely still, his whole life of great work breaking in front of him. The center gear. He whispered, feeling crushed. But, it was star metal. The easiest thing for Elias to do was to act surprised. He could let his master take the blame for a bad design. The lie was safe, the gear was broken into tiny pieces anyway. But looking at his kind, smart teacher broken by a mistake he did not make, Elias's guilt became too heavy to hold. The fear of getting caught was completely replaced by the terrible feeling of letting a good man suffer. Elias stepped forward. "Stop," he said, his voice loud enough for the quiet stage. "Nothing failed, Master. I failed." He told the whole truth. He explained the broken star metal, the fake steel gear, and how he had been scared. The mayor quickly asked the guards to arrest him. The crowd shouted in anger. But Master Thorn simply walked over and put a hand on Elias's shoulder. "A clock can be built again, Elias," Thorn said quietly. "But a broken man is much harder to fix. You destroyed my life's work today because you were scared. But in this last moment, you saved your own soul because you were brave." Part 7, A New Beginning. Elias lost his job as a student and was ordered to work in the dark iron mines for 5 years to pay for the broken clock. It was very hard, painful work, very different from the clean, careful work of making clocks. But, as Elias hit the rocks with his tool in the dark caves, he felt something he had not felt in weeks: peace. He was completely tired and had lost his honor, but the heavy feeling on his chest was gone. The scary ticking in his head had stopped. Years later, Elias opened a small shop outside Oakhaven. He fixed farm tools and simple knives. He worked very carefully and honestly. If he made a mistake, he showed the customer right away and paid for a new item himself. People started talking about the metalworker who never lied. Slowly, over many years, people started bringing him broken pocket watches. By the time Elias was an old man, he was making clocks again. They were simple and useful, not grand and fancy. But cut into the back cover of every watch he made was a small, normal steel gear with a crack in it. It was his special mark, a constant reminder: true good work comes from skill, but its base is built completely on the strong power of being honest.